Ah, there you are, Shaw.
Yes, Mr. Hillhurst.
Our potential clients should be on in 2 minutes. You ready?
Yes, sir.
Good. I like yeses, and you'd better hope our friends in Japan say yes, or you're fired.
Hey everyone, welcome to a Konveyor meetup. Today we have Vishal Anand, who will be presenting to us. He comes from IBM and reached out to me to show us his live demonstration. So super excited about this. Before I hand it over to him, just want to go over just some few housekeeping rules. So I will send out the recording slides probably 24 or 48 hours after this meetup concludes. I'll send it out to the Konveyor.io mailing list, and I'll also try to remember to put it on the LinkedIn event page. Aside from that, if you have any questions, you can put it in the Q&A section. I will try to save most of them for the end for Vishal. That way he has enough time to actually get through his whole demonstration. And then after that, if you have any questions once meetup ends, you can always go to the Slack channel, which I'll put the link to below. You can always go to the Slack channel and just talk about this meetup there. All right, well, with all that said, Vishal, it is all yours.
Thank you, Jonathan. Am I audible?
Yes, we can hear you, and we can see you now.
Perfect. All right. Hello, everyone. This is Vishal. I'm based out of Dublin, Ireland. Now, today we have a very interesting topic, right, and very close to my heart. Allow me to share my screen. Okay. I believe my screen is visible now. Jonathan, is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. You may want to just go into presenters mode with your slides.
Perfect.
There you go.
All right. So today, first I'm going to show you the reference, sample application that we have. It's a Java application, Estore. And I'm going to show you that how this forklift capability really enables us to rehost that from source to the Kubernetes platform, which is running with the KubeVirt. So I personally have Openshift Cluster, which is running Openshift Virtualization. But as you know, it's a Kubernetes native platform with KubeVirt as a technology under the hood, right? And now this title, I do realize that's a bit mouthful, right? But there's a lot of meaning in it. So before I start with the application background and then show you the rehosting, I really want to talk about this title. It's like ZeroTouch declarative rehosting, right? So let's understand what we mean by that, really. It's not that we just put some fancy words and it has no meaning, right? It's a lot of meaning in it. Now, ZeroTouch is really that the forklift, which is the operator in the Kubernetes platform, that allows you to rehost the virtual machines where you have your monolith applications running from source to target without actually touching your application or even the source VM. You are manually not going to do anything on the source, right? So that's zero touch. Now, when we talk about declarative, right? So declarative is a type of automation where the human knowledge is codified, right? So as you wanna understand the types of automation, I'll really put it in like two buckets: the imperative automation and declarative automation. So Kubernetes platform, along with the KubeVirt and the Forklift Operator, really take the definition of automation to a whole new different level, right? So that's declarative rehosting, as you understand. Now we are really going to rehost the legacy monoliths from source to our target environment. So that's the meaning of this title. Hello, everyone. As Jonathan introduced me, I'm Vishal, and I'm a thought leader, architect, and senior inventor working for IBM. Now, this chart, right? So a high level understanding of the application, because after rehosting the VM, I'm going to show you that application also comes up, right? That's the whole idea. We want to rehost because we want our application to be up and running on the Kubernetes platform. Yeah. So this application is really running on the source side. It's in Java application. As I said, it's a sample application. And it has the Wildfly application server. It has PostgreSQL database. It's running on RHEL 7.9 VM on VMware, right? And since it's like a eStore application, like pretty much you would expect like catalog service, card service, inventory service, and those APIs talking to each other, like wherever required. So you can see all that flow on the right side. So it's really like a little bit introduction of that application, and that application is up and running on the source side, right? Now, here I'm going to talk about this rehosting really, right? So as you see, there's source environment. So I have a lot of VMs running on source environment, but this monolith application, really this whole architecture that you saw in this chart on the left side, that's running in one VM. Yeah, so that's where my monolith application is running. Now, as you see below, right? So there's really easy button, and this is how like I imagine in my own mind, and I thought I want to share this thinking with all of my friends here, right? So it's really like easy button, yeah, with Konveyor. And you click that easy button. Of course, you will select which VMs you want to rehost. We will see, I'll show you the real live demo of that. It's gonna actually lift all those VMs in a bulk fashion, and it's going to put it on Openshift. And I'm going to use Openshift here as I told you, right? It's going to put it on Openshift in a very declarative fashion. And then I'm going to simply create a service and route, and that's it. My application will be up and running, right? Now, when this bulk rehosting is happening, they're happening in parallel in bulk. It's not that they are happening in like a sequential form that where, okay, let's move one VM, let's wait for it, then let's take another VM, and then let's wait for it, and so on. No, those are going to happen in parallel. And while this sample application is running on Red Hat Enterprise Linux operating system and VM, if you want to call it, we are also equally focusing on the Windows operating system. And we have the same monolith application running on Windows as well on the source side. So I'm going to also rehost that Windows-based application as well, which will lift and shift the Windows as well. So point is not only about, say, Linux, it's also about Windows, and we have equal focus on that. So this is like a little bit introduction. So I really want to like spend less time on the charts and more time on showing you the reality, right? So these were really the two charts I had. Now I'm gonna switch to another window. Okay. So this is the source side, right? So this is my VMware environment. And as you see, I have one ESX bare metal. There are like 15 VMs running. Now the second VM that you see, Estore, that's where my monolith application and the whole application architecture is up and running. The last VM that you see, Win Estore. So let me click and show you. So this is actually the Windows 2012. As you see, it's running Windows Server 2012 64-bit, and it's running on ESXi 6.7 and so on. So this is the source environment. I just wanted to give you a feel that all these VMs are like up and running there. If you go to eStore VM, so that you can see it's Red Hat Enterprise Linux 7 64-bit running on the ESX 6.7 and so on. So that was my intention here. I'm not really going to do anything on the source side, right? Now, this is my OpenShift cluster. As you can uh, see, this is the 4.6 OpenShift version I'm talking about. This is my OpenShift cluster. There's virtualization installed in here, which is nothing but the KubeVirt open source technology. And of course, there are certain operators running, yeah. So let me first show you yeah. So this is where I have the Konveyor forklift operator running. As you see, the status is succeeded. So that green tick. So all these green ticks are like all like healthy, right? So that's something that you wanna see always, yeah. Then I wanna show you the route. I'm gonna access the conveyor, sorry, the conveyor forklift operator using this route. So this is the cluster which is going to be my target environment. And this is where I have the forklift operator installed. And when I say forklift operator installed, it's like any other operator. There's really not much science behind installation or configuration. It's like simply click of a button, just click on install, and this will be up and running. Just create a controller instance, and that's what it is, right? So, and then it takes care of all those functionalities which you would traditionally like expect from like humans. So there's a lot of intervention there and all, right? So this really provides that automation for humans to like click a few easy buttons and you should be done, right? So I'm gonna click on this route here, and this is my forklift. I'm getting the UI. So for the sake of this demo, what I have done is that I have already created the provider. So you see under provider, two tabs. One is OpenShift Virtualization, which is this cluster, which you saw. And this is the source environment. Here you can see when you will add the provider, it actually connects to the source and it shows you how many VMs, networks, and data stores you have. And that's a good indication that it's been able to connect to your source environment in the backend. So you see in this example, it shows you there are 15 VMs and there's one host there, the source side. There are two networks, one data store. Status is ready, and again, green tick, right? So love that. I also want to show you that how actually I added. It's very simple. So if you go here, add provider, and it gives you an option, say VMware, all you have to do is name whatever you want as per your organizational nomenclature or taxonomy, whatever. Enter the IP address or hostname of that source environment, enter the username, password, and provide the fingerprint. Once you do that, and if you have provided the right credentials there, this happens. Like literally it happens in a couple of seconds, I would say, less than a minute. It pulls up all the details. So then you will see this window. Now, I've also created the mapping. It's simple. Like, again, if you'll click on create mapping, it pulls up what kind of source network it is. So in my case, I've selected the, say, if you want to click on it, right? So it's showing you the source network. So I have like two networks on the source side, and I have selected this private one here. The target is pod networking, and I love this bit, right? Because you are going to bring your VMs onto a Kubernetes native platform, right? So you should expect a lot of Kubernetes native advantages for the virtual machine as well. And hence it goes and maps to the pod networking for OpenShift side. Similarly, for the storage, you'll do the same. So it will show you once you click and select the source provider and target, which I have created, by the way, by creating the source. So it shows that I have like one data store of the source. Then of course I have to select that. on my OpenShift cluster, I'm running this on NFS, so that's why. So that's it. Like select this, click on create, and the mapping is created. Literally, it's that simple. Yeah. Once you have created the mapping, you can create your migration plan, right? So this migration plan I had run a couple of days for like another presentation, right? So you see this succeeded, 4 of 4 VMs migrated. But I also want to show you that how easy it is to create a migration plan. Like simply like just give any name you like, right? Then source provider, sure. VMware target provider, sorry, yes, the host. And from here, you want to give a namespace. So this is the migration plan. Next, and that's what happens. So actually, let's create the migration plan, right? So let's name it, plan name. So let me say Konveyor. Today is 6th July. So that's my plan. You can provide the description. Source provider, of course, the one which I added. Target namespace. Now, interestingly, whatever namespace you'll give here, it will actually go and create that namespace on your OpenShift cluster, right? So you don't have to then go and create namespaces manually again, right? So let me give rehost con, right? So simple. Click on create. Next. So here it has pulled up all that all those details from VMware. I'm going to select it. But like if you have multiple ESX and there are certain VMs running on that, so on that specific ESX, you can go and select that as well. Here it's one, so simple selection. Otherwise it will show you multiple. That's it. So here you see it has pulled up all my VMs. So here it's 1 of 10. In page 2, it will show you another 5 VMs. So these are all my VMs actually from source side. Now, you have an option if you want like rehost all of these 15 onto OpenShift, sure, go ahead and do that. For the sake of demo, so this Estore is where I have my monolith running. This is the Linux. The same implementation what we have done for another use case is that we have installed just the app components in this VM and PostgreSQL in this VM. So that was another reference implementation we wanted to test. So like 3 VMs from here, but these are all RHEL VMs. But I want to also pick the Windows one. And we already know this Estore is Windows. So it's the same reference implementation, but running on Windows 2012, right? By the way, and Windows 2012 R2 is very well supported for your OpenShift virtualization as well. So as you see, so I have selected 4 VMs here. Let's see what happens. Let me click on next. It's asking me that which network mapping you want to select. So I created just one network mapping. You can create multiple network mappings if you have multiple networks on the source side. So that's cool. Next. Now the same thing for storage mapping. As you know that I have already created this storage mapping. So I'm going to select that. So from VMware Data Store 2 to my NFS on OpenShift. Next. Okay, so review the migration plan, right? If you're happy, cool. So it shows I've selected 4 VMs and that's my network storage mapping, like just a human level review, if you want to call it, right? If you're happy with it, click on finish, right? Now it's creating that plan. There you go. Like what, 2 seconds? It created that migration plan. Yeah. Now it shows me an option to start from here. But before I click on start, I want to show you there is an edit option as well, just in case, like as we are all human, you may like recall, oh, I should edit that kind of moment, right? So you have that functionality there. Let me start it. So I'm clicking on start, right? Now, there you go, start. So it says running. But what's really happening, right? So I'm clueless from this window. So it further gives you the observability, and I'm going to show you how. what exactly is happening with each VM, right? So I'm going to click on this plan. There you go. So what happened here, right? So here it detected the data which has to be copied. So you see like 10 gig, 10 gig, 10 gig for all those rel. 25 gig is for that Windows VM. Now the status you see for the top one on the right, it's transferring disks, and then it has to uh, perform some more steps. Now let's see. So here you have further observability. Here it shows transferring disks, elapsed time, and as you can notice, right? So there are two steps. One is the transferring disk. Second is the conversion of the image. Now that conversion of the image is like uh, totally logical, that the image type on the source side is different and it has to support the KubeVirt supported image, so it will convert that as well. Now it's happening. Now let's see what has actually happened on the Openshift cluster side, right? Because I expected Forklift to go and create that namespace for me. And I remember I gave rehost. There you go. So now namespace exists here, and Forklift did that for me. Now I'm into that namespace. Let's see under workloads what's really happening. There you go. That's the magic of it, right? So these four VMs, as you see, they are like status importing. So it's importing, and it also tells you like, sure, like I started a minute ago or 2 minutes ago or less than a minute and so on. So you can see the status of each VMs here as well on your cluster. And here, now you see for Estore, it has transferred the 2 GB data, 3 GB gone, right? So it's transferring, which is like good. And it should do that in parallel for other VMs. So UI should pick that up, but in the back end, it's actually working on all those VMs. As you can see, all four are now in importing stage. Now all we have to do is like wait for like some more time. Usually it happens, I would say, like this size, 15 minutes or something for the Linux. For Windows of this size, I think, yeah, like 19, 20 minutes or so. So it should import. Let's see what it is doing. Hey, while it all happens, maybe we can discuss as well if anyone has any questions, right?
Yeah, Vishal. So we actually do have a couple. So, and I'll go in order. But everyone, feel free to put your questions in if you, as I go through these. So the first one is for the OpenShift. Is it running on IBM P or Z or cloud?
So it is running on the x86 platform.
Okay.
So OpenShift virtualization is supported for x86 platform.
Okay. And then
And it's
sorry,
sorry,
go
go ahead.
ahead.
Yeah.
I was
No,
just
I
saying,
was saying, and I was saying that x86 architecture is supported by OpenShift virtualization. And then from an operating system standpoint, it supports RHEL 6, RHEL 7, RHEL 8. From Windows standpoint, it supports Windows 2012 R2, Windows 2016, Windows 2019, and Windows 10. When I say supported, by the way, so I mean supported by Red Hat. If you need any support in your production environment, it does not mean that you cannot run other operating systems as well, right? So, yep.
okay. And then the next question is, so the security cipher displayed was a SHA-1, so SHA-1. And the question is, was that a mistake?
Sorry, what was dash one? I missed the question.
They're referring to the security cipher.
Okay, I didn't notice. So where was it, on the cluster side or on the conveyor side?
I think it was on the cluster side. Mark, can you verify if it was in the cluster or forklift side?
Okay, maybe we'll come back to this question next.
Yeah. Yeah, so the next one is, do you know about the limits about the size for the VM disk?
Yeah. So look, there are two things, right? So one is that we'll have to check what's the actually maximum size of the disk which can be moved. But as far as like our testing, like for my project level testing, we have definitely tested, like as you saw, 10, 25 gigs and like 70, 80 gigs as well. We have gone that far. So that's like comes from like my first hand experience.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I know last week we had this question, and the team that does the testing on Forklift, they said they've tested 1 terabyte up to 1 terabyte and been okay. And Vishal, back to Mark's question. So he was saying that it was at the beginning. It was a default cipher.
Okay, so let me share my screen again. Sharing options, share screen. Hey, you able to see my screen now?
Yes.
Oh, wow. It's already executed here. So yeah, I'm sorry, I just wanna like capture this moment here, right? So you see all these are actually running in parallel, right? So the first one, 10 gig done, 8 gig done, third one, 10 gig done, fourth one is like 2 gig done. So that's the forklift UI status. Now you see here the two steps, transfer disks, done, green, convert image, done, processing completed. The status is complete as well, right? So that one is done. And this VM must be up and running on Openshift side. So let's go and see what's happening in my namespace. There you go. So now this VM is actually up and running. Let's see if I'm able to log into this VM. So let me get this console. Ah, there you go. So, and the same username password that I had on the source side must work. There's the same image. So there you go, running. Let me see, how about network? So it's taken, so yes, client. Let's see if it has taken the IP address. Ah, there you go. The IP is there. That means I should be able to ping internet, if you want to call it. That's it. So it's up in the network and VM is running. But as I said, it's not only about VM. What about my application? So, okay, so second one is also now up and running. Now, okay, there you go. So the Linux ones are like super fast. As you see, like 10 gig and they're almost done. Yeah. So for the second one, it is converting image to KubeVirt. The disk is copied. How much time it has taken, you see, right? So in 4 minutes, really like 4 minutes, 28 seconds, the VM was moved. The VM was moved, right? Then it took 1 minute, 40 seconds to make that compatible with KubeVirt, if you want to call it, right? What, like 6 minutes, 8 seconds, done and dusted, right? 6 minutes, 8 seconds, this was done. Similarly, like you can see, like 6 minutes here as well, right? Done. Well, it's converting. The third one, Third one was even fast, right? What, like 3 and 4, like less than 5 minutes, if you want to call it, like less than 6 minutes here, right? The fourth one, Windows, is like 9 gigs, so it's still in the transfer disk step. And as you can see that it's not showing green yet. It's like the bubble is filling up with blue, and the convert image doesn't even have any color because it hasn't gone to that step yet. So you can see the differences, right? There you go. Third one and second one is also completed, right? So all three done, completed, transferred, converted, done and dusted. Now here, there you go. 3 VMs up and running. Yeah. The fourth one is coming up. So we did all that like what, in less than, okay, 10 minutes ago. So in 10 minutes, right? Then 10 minutes and then 9 minutes. So you saw when I said that it is in bulk and it is in parallel, this is what I meant, right? In parallel. But now I have to bring up my application, and it's simple. So all I'm going to do is to expose it to service, and I'm going to create a route. That's all it is. So I have this, like, it's that simple thing here. So let me create a service. Okay, so I'm gonna open it on this port here, and I'm gonna give the namespace. So remember to give the right namespace where your VMs are running. Rehost con port 8080 Estore. Yep, that's the name of my VM, Estore. Create. Okay. So we created a service for that Estore, and now I'm going to create a route. So what do you want to call it? Like my route, whatever you want to call it. And let me give the path actually. So, yeah. So this is my path. I'm going to select a service. So Estore, target port, sure, AT&T. Now I want to create a secure route. Let's see TLS termination. I'm going to go through the edge and your traffic redirect. Currently not giving certificates of private key. I'm going to create it. Okay, so I created a route. Now, this is the link for my application, and I hope it works. Well, it has to. There you go. That's my application. And yep, so my username, password, validation succeeded. There you go. This is my application now, which was running on source side. Now I rehosted that, brought up the application. It's running. Now you can like do whatever topping you want to do from here, and add to cart and so on. Let's see, cart, and place your order, and payment gateway, and so on, right? So we saw the application also came up. Now let's see, the fourth one is almost there, almost there. Forklift. Yeah, so 14 gig is done. So anyway, so this is gonna come up. It's just a matter of size, and I know we have more time, but so new. Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen here.
Yeah, Vishal. So we have a good amount of questions that came in. So thank you for sharing that. So we have one that the question is, what source disk formats are supported?
Yes. So for now, the source provider is VMware, and I know like Red Hat is working in providing more source providers for sure, right? And Red Hat virtualization is going to be one of them. So currently in Forklift, I had like only one option, which is like VMware, and it has its like say VDDK image format. So when it was converting that image, it actually converted that to the supported one, which is QCOW 2. So that was the conversion here.
Okay. Yeah, and for anyone else if you're curious to see like what the timelines are and like to specific sources, I did put the roadmap deck that Miguel created not too long ago in the actual chat. And Vishal, the next question is, can I run OpenShift virtualization on bare metal instances from any of the cloud providers like AWS, Azure, or IBM?
So yes, good question. So again, like I will actually create two questions out of that, right? So one is, can you run KubeVirt on bare metal? Absolutely, you can, right? Can you run KubeVirt on a nested virtualization? Absolutely, you can. Technically, it works, right? Now, when you use the term OpenShift virtualization, what that happens is that you are bringing in the supportability aspect into the picture. Now, from the supportability aspect of Red Hat, you need to have the bare metal for OpenShift virtualization for like supportability perspective. Now, that bare metal, if you have on-premises bare metal, you can actually repurpose that as well, right? So if you have to say move from one environment to another, and one environment is running on bare metal, so you can repurpose that bare metal. So a lot of benefits in the on-premises environment, and you can get like cloud native and Kubernetes native advantages to a very significant extent with the approach. And of course, by the way, uh, one more thing in here, right? That there are certain use cases which are supported by OpenShift virtualization, right? So do not think that like it's replacement of like technology X or technology Y. There are certain specific use cases that you want to be like very careful and very sure of that what can move. Now, so that's one point I wanted to highlight here. Now back to the other part of the question, that can you run this on Cloud X, Cloud Y, whatever other cloud with bare metal? You can run it. Definitely, you can run it wherever you have bare metal. It's that you want to understand the supportability aspect by engaging, say, with Red Hat, for example, right? So that's something that you want to find out for your specific environment and specific cloud provider. Although there's also like documentation like docs.openshift.com, and there also there are a lot of good information about OpenShift virtualization, the use cases, and so on. So yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Okay, and I have a slightly related question. Is the target environment OpenShift only, or is it any cube, or is any cube Kubernetes a potential target?
So as I said, like KubeVirt is the technology under the hood. As long as you have KubeVirt, like and Forklift Operator, it should work. Regardless,
Okay.
like these are all like open source technologies, right? So it's not that something we are creating on our own or something or some proprietary component here, right? So anything that I've shown you here, they're like upstream projects like KubeVirt and Forklift. They will work pretty much.
Okay, and then this is a different question. Is the IP copied as it is from source to OpenShift Virt? And then there's a second question. Then can I use OpenShift Virt to horizontally scale the app?
So a couple of moving parts in there, right? So one, that when we did the mapping of network here, you saw that there was a different network. on the source side, then I map that with the pod networking of OpenShift, right? What that tells us is that as long as you are leveraging pod networking, it's gonna use the IPs which are available in your cluster, in your Kubernetes cluster, right? And that's one of the important aspects. But I would like to share my personal experience with one of the applications that we tested as like a proof of concept, if I want to call it, right? That particular application, an application was proprietary, by the way. That application licensing had a dependency on the MAC address, not on the IP, right? On the MAC address. And we actually, now good thing with KubeVirt is that you can actually go and edit the YAMLs of a VM. Remember, everything is a YAML here, right? So even your VM is a YAML here, right? And the best part is that we could update that YAML with a very specific MAC address to which that licensing was bound to. And we changed that, we saved YAML. It said, oh, you want to reboot your VM? Like, sure, because I changed that YAML later on. So we rebooted it. Guess what? Application came out. So that was MAC level dependencies. For IP, since you selected pod networking, as long as like whatever IPs you have made available to your cluster, they are gonna be used. So that answers your question. But I also wanna share that think of Kubernetes native. Sure, we are bringing monoliths here, but like you saw how I accessed my application, right? I accessed my application through route here and not through any IP or anything like that, right? So there's a lot of Kubernetes native touch also here. So that's, yeah, these are some of the aspects that you want to think about.
And the next question I have for you, Vishal, is can you share the details on use cases approved or supported by Red Hat for OpenShift virtualization?
Yeah, so I think it should be in the roadmap that Jonathan has shared. Jonathan, if you have shared the Red Hat OpenShift virtualization roadmap, then, for example, like I'm led to believe that Red Hat recently released the GPU support as well. So a lot of things are there in the roadmap. So you would see like what has been delivered and what's upcoming, right? I want to share my screen one more time. I want to show you what has happened to that Windows VM. So sharing options, share screen, and sharing again. Okay, and I believe it's visible to all of you. Now here, see, Windows 1 is also migrated or rehosted. 25 out of 25 gig. Transfer disk done. Image conversion done. Like what? 16 minutes? Less than 16 minutes, right? Yeah. So that time it took to rehost that 25 gig. And I didn't do anything here, right? So it copied the VM, it converted the VM, and it brought up the VM here. There you go. So even Windows 1 is running. It has taken these IP addresses through like the pod networking, like Kubernetes, right? Think of Kubernetes here. Now this is running on Kubernetes, yeah? So let's see how my console looks. So it's, yeah, like very much Windows 2012. Yep. So my Windows VM is also up and running. And here also I have Monolith, but like it's the same app that you saw. So I'm not gonna like do much on this one. I'm gonna lock it from here. So it's asking me to change the password because it's first time login. Remember, it's like VM, like Windows VM. So, which is good. I'll do it later. So let me go back to the VM. Yep. So that was the end of the demo, and I wanna summarize what I shared, right? So, sorry. Yep. Okay. So we understood the zero touch aspect of it. We understood the declarative automation side of it. We rehosted the monolith application, not only just the VM, but application also came up on Openshift side. We saw how we created the migration plan. We saw how we did the storage and network mapping and so on. And we saw all this rehosting happen in parallel. All this happened in a bulk fashion. And it was like not bad. Like what? Like we started this talk 47 minutes ago, and we are done with these 4 real rehosting from source to target.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Vishal. Yeah, we had a question, but Richard answered it. Thank you, Richard. But I just want to, I think Vishal would be good to get your answer on this as well. So the question is, the migrated VM, they're not containerized, right? And then the second part of that is, so this can work only in OpenShift, not in the standard Kubernetes environment.
Okay, so it is a VM, but it is running in a pod. And so if you will actually do an internet search with my name, like Vishal Anand OpenShift, you'll find a blog called Declarative Coexistence of VMs and Containers, right? And I wrote this article last year sometime, I believe it was August. In there, I have actually described the whole architecture as well, that how this architecture is running. And this VM is nothing but a pod actually. Like as you run containers in a pod, and pod becomes like a schedulable computing unit. That's what VM is here, right? So it is running in a pod. Sure, it brings certain KubeVirt components, but they talk to the common Kube API as well, right? So it is a VM in a pod. So that's one, right? Now, as I said, as long as you have KubeVirt, it should work. But like personally, I try it on like Openshift Cluster, so it should work.
Vishal, so we have a couple more questions. So I think the next one that's closely related to the analogy of running the VM in a pod. Who benefits from this?
Good question. Who benefits from this? So I'll take a step back, right? And then I'll come to the point. Why you wanna, okay, so that's a very KubeVirt question, not the forklift question, and I'm okay to deviate, that's fine. So your first priority should be definitely containerization. There's no doubt about it, right? So when you talk about the legacy, then you think of modernization. If you wanna embark this digital transformation journey because there is a business model transformation need for that particular organization, right? Then go ahead and containerize it, right? Put them as containers, like refactored on OpenShift, right? You will realize that you cannot actually containerize all of them. Some of the reasons could be, oh, so this modernization is gonna take 10 months. It's good enough, but can I wait for that 10 minutes, like 10 months project for this? Maybe not. Then could be some technical constraints, as one of you asked, that IP dependency. Like if you really have that hard-coded dependency, how are you gonna do that when you're gonna containerize that? Like you're gonna really put that IP hard-coded dependency on your Kubernetes native operating model? I'm skeptical there, right? So these are some of the reasons. Then there could be budgetary reasons as well. Now, when you cannot containerize, right? But you can containerize a lot of components already from an overall application landscape. So if you are gonna, so for example, right, in layman terms, if your application has 10 components, C1 to C2, you think you can containerize, say, 5 of them. What are you gonna do with the 5 leftovers? And how that overall application architecture gonna really work, right? So that becomes a good use case. Of course, then you want to understand the compatibility, supportability, and other NFRs as well, especially that IP hard coded is a good one. It gives you an opportunity to bring those virtual machines on OpenShift to run side by side with your containerized applications or workloads, could be in the same namespace. So think of the latency, think of the affinity reasons of that application component to container ones, right? So now you're running it on a common platform, and then it gives you the advantages of Kubernetes native platform, but treat that as a landing zone. Transit zone, right? So don't think that you have reached that nirvana state of your modernization. When you bring those VMs here, in parallel, you should have a plan to modernize and containerize them whenever onto the common platform. Now, back to the point, right? So as I said, I would take a step back. Now, back to the point. With that context, right? Who are, say, who are the buyers? Was that the question? Or who is going
Who
to
benefits
benefit?
from it?
Who benefits? So the application guys will benefit it. The developers will benefit it, and the operation guys would benefit it, because now you have actually brought two worlds together on a common platform. So think of the monitoring, think of the management of it, think of your CI/CD pipelines. By the way, as we speak, we have also tested very successfully the Tecton pipeline for a virtual machine. And that Tecton pipeline runs on my OpenShift cluster. And that Tecton, as you know, Tecton is a very Kubernetes native that itself runs as containers. We actually created the VMs using that Tecton pipeline. We also enable the GitOps practices for that VM. So when we changed the code, we pushed it, and guess what? It triggered that pipeline. It changed the code while VM was up and running, and the application was then running with the new feature, which I just pushed in the GitHub. So that GitOps approach is also working when you bring this VM on OpenShift virtualization. So that's one. So clearly you see the benefit. Now, the second aspect of this is think from a skills perspective, right? So whatever source you have, and if you have like legacy environments, what that happens is that not only you're using very specific monitoring and management tooling, and the same thing will happen on the target side as well. You'll really use most of the Kubernetes native monitoring and management tools, which are like all operators, and from the marketplace, you can also like bring your automation in terms of operators and whatnot. All that can be leveraged to like significant extent. So that's another advantage. And you are going to unify the skills as well, right? What that means is that it's a common web console here, right? OpenShift console that you saw. Yeah. It's not that, oh, my developer team will use another console, or operations team will use another console. So a lot of like convergence aspects are coming into play here. And then think of, say, VM goes down or application goes down on the source side, how your processes look like, what's the behavior of the team on the ground resolving those issues on the source side, and then try to think through the same issues and how they will be resolved on your Kubernetes native environment. You will see that a lot of things will change, and you will adopt the new ways of working. So like That's actually a short answer. I can keep talking about it for hours. So I stop here, right?
Thank you, Vishal. Yeah, I know. I think there's a lot of questions that arise whenever you go to moving VMs to KubeVirt. So I'll go into this next one, and then we still have a couple more. So the next question is more related to day two operations. So the question is, how do you manage updates to the app? And also, what about the patching of the migrated virtual machine?
Okay, you know what? So now, since looks like the audiences are more interested in discussing the KubeVirt and OpenShift virtualization, my intention and agenda was very specific of showing the forklift power, call it, to your Kubernetes native platform. So I'd really appreciate if for at least for this session, if focuses on forklift and look, reach out to me on LinkedIn or Jonathan if you really need a very specific KubeVirt or OpenShift virtualization related discussion. More than happy to have another session, but very specific, right? So any questions on forklift for the day? Like the declaratives, like ZeroTouch, declarative rehosting. So that's the power I wanted to show today, right?
Yeah, I know. It's always an iffy one when we talk about moving VMs, right?
No, it's
All
cool.
right.
It's cool. No, I'm equally excited. Probably if I was participant on the other side of the fence, I would yeah, I love these discussions because it's it's a new technology. There is curiosity. There are use cases and also totally understand and respect that emotion.
Well, everyone, I think that we're actually close to time, so we're gonna go ahead and call it. I did put an article in the chat in case you're interested more about KubeVirt, and those use cases there. But Vishal, thank you so much for coming. And with that, I'll send out everything probably in the next 24 to 48 hours. So until next time, everyone.